You'll never change until you admit this one truth. There is a quiet moment that almost no one talks about. A moment that arrives not in crisis or collapse, but in stillness, when you suddenly realize that you've been trying to change your life for years, reading the books, watching the videos, setting intentions, promising yourself that this time will be different, and yet nothing truly changes. The habits return. The patterns repeat. The same thoughts circle endlessly in your mind, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to suspect that the problem is not a lack of knowledge, nor discipline, nor even opportunity, but something far more uncomfortable, that somewhere inside you, a part of you does not actually want to change. Think about this for a moment. Not the part of you that dreams of freedom, growth, or peace, but the quieter part that benefits from staying exactly where you are, even if where you are hurts. Because here is the truth that reshapes everything once you see it clearly. You don't resist change because you are weak. You resist change because change threatens an identity you've learned to survive inside. Carl Jung believed that the ego clings desperately to familiar suffering because it knows how to navigate it, while the unknown, even if brighter, feels dangerous simply because it is unfamiliar. And so the psyche chooses pain it understands over possibility it does not. But here's what no one tells you. Staying the same always gives you something. It gives you predictability. It gives you excuses. It gives you a story about who you are and why things haven't worked out yet. And stories, even painful ones, can feel safer than silence. Napoleon Hill wrote that most people live their entire lives governed by invisible fears. Fears that disguise themselves as logic, caution, or realism, when in truth they are simply habits of thought that protect the ego from discomfort. While Jung believed resistance came from the unconscious, Hill saw it as mental programming, a loop reinforced by repetition and emotional familiarity. Different language, same insight. You don't fail to change because you lack willpower. You fail because you haven't admitted what staying the same gives you. Now ask yourself, what do you gain by not changing? Do you gain sympathy? Do you gain a reason to avoid risk? Do you gain protection from judgment, failure, or responsibility? These questions are uncomfortable, which is precisely why they are powerful. Viktor Frankl observed that human beings will endure almost any suffering if it gives their life a sense of meaning, but they will sabotage growth if it threatens the meaning they already rely on, even if that meaning is built on pain. For many people, suffering becomes identity. I am the anxious one. I am the unlucky one. I am the one who never quite gets there. And as long as that identity remains intact, real change feels like self-betrayal. Think about this for a moment. If you truly healed, who would you be without your old story? What excuses would disappear? What responsibility would suddenly be yours? Friedrich Nietzsche warned that people often prefer chains they recognize to freedom they don't understand, because freedom demands authorship, and authorship demands courage, and courage is not loud. It is quiet. It shows up when no one is watching, when you admit the truth you've been avoiding, the truth that part of you is comfortable being stuck, not happy, not fulfilled, but safe. Carl Jung described this as the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or refuse to acknowledge, not because they are evil, but because they contradict the image we want to believe about ourselves. We like to think we are trying our best. We like to believe we are victims of circumstance. But the shadow asks a different question. What if you are participating in your own stagnation? That question stings. And yet, it liberates, because the moment you see your role, even gently, even imperfectly, you regain choice. But here's the paradox. Admitting this truth does not mean blaming yourself. It means reclaiming your power. Responsibility is not punishment. It is permission. Permission to stop waiting. Permission to stop hoping that motivation will magically arrive. Permission to stop pretending that insight alone creates transformation. Alan Watts often said that the ego loves improvement projects because they postpone presence, keeping us forever chasing a future version of ourselves while never fully meeting who we are right now. And so we plan, we prepare, we consume, but we never fully commit, because commitment dissolves excuses. Now ask yourself, What would you have to let go of if you truly changed? Who might you disappoint? Who might you outgrow? Who might you no longer be able to blame? These are not rhetorical questions. They are doorways. Viktor Frankl believed that meaning is not discovered through comfort, but through responsibility freely chosen. And the moment you choose responsibility, not out of guilt, but out of clarity, life begins to reorganize itself around that choice. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, quietly, truthfully. This is why affirmations fail. This is why motivation fades. This is why force eventually collapses, because change does not begin with action. It begins with honesty. Honesty about fear. Honesty about attachment. Honesty about the hidden rewards of staying the same. Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And most people never change, because they never pause long enough to see what is actually driving them. They blame time. They blame energy. They blame circumstances. But deep down, they are protecting an identity that no longer serves them. And the moment you see this, not with judgment, but with awareness, something loosens. You stop fighting yourself. You stop performing change. You start listening. And in that listening, clarity emerges, not as a command, but as a quiet knowing. A knowing that says, I cannot unsee this anymore. That is the moment real change begins. Not when life forces you. Not when pain peaks, but when you admit the truth you've been defending yourself from. That staying the same has been serving you, and that you are now ready to let that service end. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to Becoming You and keep growing with us. And if you watched until the end, comment the word honesty below and share what truth you are finally ready to face.